Hopefully and good afternoon. The public hearing conducted by the Committee on Land, Environment, Housing, Agriculture, Parks, and Infrastructure is called to order, and the time is 2:00 p.m. Today's date is Thursday, January 8, 2026. Notice of this hearing was disseminated to all local media outlets on December 10, 2025, with a second notice provided on January 6, 2026. Notice of the hearing was also made known on the Guam Legislature's website and the Government of Guam Public Notice Portal. This afternoon, the committee will hear testimony on Bill number 240-38 LS, introduced by Senator Chris M. Dueñas and other sponsors, V. Anthony Added, Jesse Lujan, Vincent, Borja, Sabrina, Salas, Matanane, Shawn, Gumataotao. And this is an act to amend Section 61309, Article 3, Chapter 61, Title 21, Guam Code Annotated, relative to adding temporary workforce housing as a permitted use for M1 light industrial zones. I would like to now introduce my colleagues and welcome them for joining here this afternoon, Senator Shawn Gumataotao and Senator Sabrina Salas Matanane. Before we begin, I would like to go over the general rules of conduct. Individuals testifying shall first be recognized by the chair before speaking and shall state their name for record-keeping purposes. Questions and testimony shall be confined to the substance or nature of the agenda. Personal inference as to the character or motive of any senator or individual testifying is not permitted. The chairperson of the committee may order the removal from the hearing any member of Iles Turanguahan who fails to observe proper decorum pursuant to the 38th Guam Legislature Standing Rules. Any violation of this general rule of conduct will result in your removal by the host. We will now proceed to hearing the bill number 240-38 COR. Primary sponsor, Senator Chris M. Dueñas, is unavailable to be here this afternoon, and I'll be delivering his sponsor statement. Bill 240 addresses a pressing challenge created by Guam's military buildup. The demand for workforce housing has outpaced supply. This measure allows temporary workforce housing in M1 light industrial zones, enabling faster, cost-effective development near major project sites. By removing outdated restrictions, we provide certainty to developers and regulators, ensuring timely completion of infrastructure and commercial projects vital to our economy. This bill also safeguards public welfare through clear requirements for sanitation, fire safety, health compliance, and community input. This is a practical, targeted solution that balances growth with responsibility. I look forward to working with my colleagues to advance this measure and place it on our next session agenda. I will go ahead and get the sign up sheet. Those who want to testify can please come up to the table. With all the thorns, we'll go ahead and start with the rose right there in the middle. Just when you just state your name for the record, and then you may proceed with your testimony, Ms. Dueñas. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Liz Dueñas, and I respectfully submit the testimony in strong support of Bill 240-38, particularly in light of the limited availability of workforce housing on Guam. The existing housing inventory available to our local community has been significantly reduced, with a substantial portion occupied by contractors housing their construction workforce. This shortage has placed additional strain on residents and the broader housing market. Allowing workforce housing projects as a permitted use rather than a conditional use would greatly improve efficiency by reducing unnecessary delays. This change would help accelerate construction activity and increase the availability of much-needed workforce housing. Under current conditional use process, approvals can be tedious and prolonged, often taking months, a year, or even longer, due to the need to coordinate multiple government requirements and approvals. Importantly, Bill 240-38 does not eliminate or bypass existing governmental standards. All fundamental requirements for compliance, conformance, and oversight remain fully intact. The bill simply streamlines the process while preserving regulatory safeguards. Guam has historically missed numerous investment opportunities for various types of facilities due to restrictive and time-consuming governmental processes. As a result, many potential investors have chosen to pursue development in other locations. Bill 240-38 presents an opportunity to reverse this trend by making Guam more competitive and attractive for investment in workforce housing. For these reasons, I urge the support of Bill 240-38 and believe it is a necessary step towards addressing Guam's workforce housing challenges and encouraging responsible development on our island. I want to add that, this works if it goes through the process, as long as it doesn't get sandbagged in the governmental permitting process. Getting a permit on Guam takes forever. Whether you're building a house or a project, there's so many requirements, which understandably we have to follow. But if the government was a little more efficient in timelines, like a 30-day window, not a 60, 90, 120-day window to get your permit through, it's ridiculous. I mean, in other areas in the States, they're able to do a lot of stuff online. We're behind the time, guys. We got to do something about it. So it's, I think, critical for people to stand up and speak, but it has to be heard. We can say all we want, but if it doesn't get heard on the level that is needed, you guys are the people that can move things along, but it has to work hand in hand with other government agencies. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dueñas, for your testimony this afternoon. I'd like to welcome my colleague, Senator Tello-Taidigui, for being here. Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Chris Felix, you'd like to go next, sir?
Thank you, Vice Speaker. Senators, thank you very much for giving us an opportunity. Like Liz, I strongly support this bill. All the reasons she gave, I don't have to re-give. But there's maybe another point that I would like to bring up. This will speed things up to the point now where a contractor can lease a warehouse and convert the warehouse into the adequate barracks that meets all the requirements as stated in the new bill, that all the protections are there and all the safety and requirements. But by doing that, because of the time period of their processing, no landlord would lease it to them. I'm not going to wait a year that maybe you'll take it and maybe you won't. But with this bill now, they'll be able to lease that. And what that does for Guam and for us is that it opens up all these apartment buildings that are on the lower end and the $900 to $1,100 a month that our people really need desperately. And that's what this bill will do. And it's just a win-win situation. I don't see any lose in this bill. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Felix, for your testimony. I'd like to also welcome my colleague, Speaker Frank Blas, for being here. Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, sir. Mr. Carl Peterson, would you like to go next, sir? We'll save the last for Mr. Youngling there.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Senators. My name is Carl Peterson. I'm a certified financial planner, and I started my business called Money Resources 60 years ago last September, and I'm still not retired. I'm here representing any of the following: the Armed Forces Committee of the Chamber, the Guam Association of Realtors, or myself. I just want to talk a little bit about the historical perspective of workforce housing and how it used to work. I was appointed to the TPC, Territorial Planning Commission, as it was known then, in 1971, right after Carlos Camacho became our first elected governor. Being asked by the governor was so profound, I even remember where the question was asked, and it was Windward Hills at a golf tee box, when they asked me to be a member of the board. I was playing golf with Mel Logan and the governor at the time. Mel was my my idol, because he was chief of staff of the governor, and he was earning $1,000 a month. Earning $1,000 a month was my goal in my life at that time, and if a person made $400 a month, you were still good. There I was playing golf. I had a new house that cost $11,975 or $97 a month. I had my first Corvette that I bought for $3,900. I could pay the mortgage on the house, pay the loan on the Corvette, had household expenses like a loaf of white bread at 8 cents and a haircut costing 50 cents, gas at 34 cents, and I often had beer with the boys or with Albert Kuzunoki, though he was the owner of Kuzunoki's store in Didido. Life was fine. After asking me to be on the board, which at the time I knew nothing about, the governor and Mel talked about doing things right. They expected Guam would grow from our home-growing population as well as increases from off-island. Keep in mind that most of the teachers were off-island hire, and part of their package then was to provide accommodations for them. So there's several thousand. This would mean Guam would need more housing. First, Guam itself needed to replace a lot of pre-war, post-war Quonset homes and other substandard homes as defined by the laws from the 60s. Next, the first plane load of tourists started arriving a couple years earlier, and we hoped that it would develop into a burgeoning industry that would need all the accoutrements associated with economic development in the tourist industry. The point of this discussion was that we needed to do this as well as a well-thought-out process rather than do it haphazardly so we would look like a respectable place to visit with our culture and not some honky-tonk destination. In addition, the small Fujita Hotel was already built, 3 separate buildings with 20 rooms each. And we expected we would be developing a number of hotels as quality accommodations would be expected. Rumors at the time were that even the Hilton was thinking of establishing on Guam, and did in 1974. All of this would require lots of construction and contract workers from off-island, so we needed to think about how we were going to accommodate those numbers. We still had the Filipino workers camp called Mastelco, opened in 1950s to service military projects. It was closed in 1975, but we did not think we wanted to build another camp like that. The industry was changing and so was the economy. So we had to find ways to realistically support construction requirements. I served 22 consecutive years on the TPC. We were able to consider a large number of applicants each meeting rather than 1 or 2, as the agencies, by and large, tried to accommodate the TPC because it meant an expansion of our economy and jobs for our citizens. We would approve projects subject to requirements that they met power, sewer, water requirements, and the proper setback, proper egress and ingress, as well as meet the specs of the new building code and other regularities, rather than do it the other way around, make them qualify before the application. We do it, we approve, subject to you qualifying. If there was, the idea was to get things moving. When it came to housing requirements, one of the first major developments was a large black construction encampment right next to Route 16 going up the hill to Barragata Heights, and that was before Barragata Heights was built. The thought behind it was that the best place for barracks with kitchen facilities was in an industrial zone because it would be the least imposing on the rest of the community. They had the barracks, the dining facilities, and recreation all in one camp. On a smaller scale, another example was Jose and Peter Carlos, maybe you remember some of them, or a couple of them, the company called Carlos Construction. Their construction offices were on Route 16 near the Micronesia Mall. But there were a couple other buildings built together where the men bunked and ate their evening and morning meals and had a basketball court. They were designed in such a way that you never saw the men unless you drove into the office. The point of all this is having workforce housing in an industrial zone is the least intrusive way to accommodate the people we need to perform the projects much needed in our society. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson, for your testimony this afternoon. And Mr. Yingling, I'll go ahead and recognize you for your testimony, sir.
Vice Speaker, Senators, thank you for having me today. I actually came just to listen. While I'm a member of the GLUC, I have no comments, and anything I do say is from a personal opinion and nothing reflects upon the GLUC. When I first heard about this bill, the only concern I had, and this is no offense to my wonderful mayor in Tamuning, Tatuha. You always have these images of Harmon Industrial Park, and a little strike of fear came through me that without control of what's going on with M1 property, we could get into such a bind. But now that I'm reading this, I'm much more relieved than I was when I first heard of the bill. Anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yingling. Go ahead, Ms. Dueñas.
I just want to add that the Guam Association of Realtors also support the bill. We do have a testimony. We just have to get that signature and submit it in writing. But just for the record, the Guam Association does support the bill.
Thank you, ma'am. I truly appreciate that. I'll open up the panel to my colleagues if they have any questions for you, and I'll go ahead and start off with Senator Gumataotao. Senator Gumataotao, you're recognized, sir.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I only have a couple of questions, and I'm hoping you guys can help me answer it today. Acknowledging the concerns that were raised by some policymakers during the discussion on a similar bill in a previous legislature, including the size of workforce housing facilities and their impact on the safety of workers and surrounding communities, what information is available regarding complaints which may have been made against workforce housing facilities, including single-family homes and apartment units, as they relate to public safety, health, or the environment?
In terms of this bill, the permitted use is for M1 zone. And M1 zones are like off of Route 3. They're rural areas that were zone M1, but even if they wanted to build workforce housing, they have to have the sewer lines, there's infrastructure that has to be in place. Now, I think one of the issues that if we allowed workforce housing in an apartment building, there are families in the building with children and that they would be affected. However, this bill reflects M1 zone. So if your home is built in an M1 zone, I mean, that could be an issue, but M1 zone is strictly light industrial work. But I do know when we were talking about this at one time, we had some consultants proclaim some interest that, hey, you've got families in the neighborhood, if they would be affected. But again, if this bill showed permitted use in an apartment building, R1, R2, then yes, there may be some issues, but in this particular case, it's M1, which is light industrial.
All right, thank you so much for that, Liz. And referencing the same bill from the previous legislature, what information is available regarding the estimated impact resulting from, call it a lack of action to move forward with this bill as early as a couple of years ago? I know sometimes we can think of things being better late than never, if you will, but any idea of the impacts, either investment loss that might have been experienced by some developers, maybe missed opportunities across associated businesses, including but not limited to retail types of stores, auto dealerships, restaurants, any other retail establishments? I
think the others can also give feedback, but on my part, we're kind of like behind the 8 ball. The workers are here. I do know there was a situation where contractors were sent home. And just think about it. You're a contractor. You've already put in a bid. You've lost money if you had to send these contract workers home because a project didn't move forward, because the government didn't approve it. When that contractor comes back, he's lost a heck of a lot of money from sending them home, the airfare, bringing them back, and then the construction work that takes place. And if they didn't have the housing that we are proposing in this bill, where are they going to go? They're going to go in apartment buildings, they're going to go in single-family homes. But even with that, there are limitations. You can only have so many unrelated in one single-family home. Apartment buildings, and I think even the hotels, there's a percentage that is allowed to house contract workers in those buildings. So yes, there's a big loss for a contractor. Let's say he has a project today and he has to start. They don't have the house. They don't have the housing. What's going to happen? He can't do anything and he's lost. So yes, investment loss, money's lost. It's a triple effect. Price goes up.
I'm sorry, go ahead there.
Yeah, and just to add a little on, honestly, up until 2-3 years ago, I don't think there was very much loss. Because if you remember, we were having such a hard time with the feds on getting H-2 workers here that there wasn't an issue of housing them because we had so few and it was murder trying to get them here. But the last 2-3 years, things changed right around. And H-2 workers became heavy demand and more came on. And so that has created a demand. And as far as fears or rumors, your first question, there was a lot of talk, a lot of fears shared about what would happen if your neighbor was a barracks, but I never heard of one complaint in all my years, and I listened to the ground a lot, so.
No, thank you so much, Chris. Carl, did you have something? Are you okay? Oh, no, I thought you wanted to make a comment. Not a problem. Mr. Chair, that's all I had. Again, thank you to the panel for being with us today, and I appreciate the conversation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Gumataotao. Senator Matanane, you're recognized, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When I saw this bill, I was like, of course I supported, especially coming from the construction industry and attending a Guam Contractors Association meeting. I think it was a couple of years ago when this entire issue was brought up. And during that meeting, it was also brought up that legislation had been introduced regarding this, and Senator Gumataotao kind of mentioned that. And so when I was looking back, I noticed that the bill was introduced May 2023. A public hearing was held 6 months later by the Committee on Health and Land. But after that, I'm not sure, I don't think anything else happened. Do you recall, Liz, because you were in one of the videos testifying in strong support of the bill at the time, do you recall whatever happened?
Chris can probably confirm. I think what happened then was we didn't get support. We didn't have the full support probably from the legislature, so it's sad, and there were issues that came, right, Chris?
It never came out of committee, is my understanding. It was stuck in the committee after the public hearing. It never hit the floor, as far as I know. There was no vote held on it. There just seemed to be no interest from the senators at that time.
In place, yes.
So then I guess my only question then is, can we afford to delay action again?
No. My feedback is no. We need as much housing as we can get for the local market. Just think about it. I've housed people like 2-3 couples in one house. Why? Because they can't afford to go individually, or they can't find the home that could house them for a single family. So I've seen 2 couples with their families get together, or 3 couples. I mean, how would you like that? I don't think any of you would like living with 2-3 other couples, but it's a necessity at this time because of the lack of rental properties. So if we open that inventory, it'll make a big difference for our local community.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, I think this is just another example of this legislature, this Republican majority, trying to push forward. We cannot continue, we cannot afford to keep postponing solutions when the impacts are already being felt in our community today. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Senator Tide, you're recognized, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excuse me. Good morning to my colleagues, and of course, good morning to everyone who's here testifying today. I don't know if you had an opportunity to read the fiscal report regarding this. I know, Jerry, that you're being here on behalf of the Guam Land Use Commission. The fiscal note basically says there's lost revenue to the government of Guam. One area in loss in revenue would be the Guam Land Use Commission, as well as the Guam Preservation Trust, as well as Environmental Health Fund. Unfortunately, we couldn't get that fiscal impact as of this time, and I'm curious to find out how much that would be. But one of my major concerns here is that, well, we all know that this military buildup is extended a little bit longer than it was anticipated, and we stand to look at about another 5 years, this military buildup come. But we're now at the peak of this buildup. And now we're going to start seeing a slope going down as far as workers, as far as like the projects that have been put in place. The only thing that we are going to see is the missile defense system. And that is only going to bring in about 300 people, at the most. So as we are dwindling down, my concern is that we should have done this sooner, actually, from the very beginning, and bypassing all the hardships that our community has to face because of the military buildup. But then again, here we are inviting these individuals coming from off-island, the H-2 workers, to be here and housing them. And I've heard horror stories about housing development where they're staying in and they're being stacked up on top of each other almost, and the sanitariness of the building is really bad. So my concern, too, is regarding that. So one, the timeline, which this bill eliminates any timeline that this temporary, so-called temporary housing M1 industry zone are approved for initial of 2 years, but it's no longer in the legislation. It's gone. So we don't have a timeline. And that's something I think we should do, because we are bypassing adequate sanitary sewer system. Adequate, is what it says. We are adequate when we are clear as to what is required for any kind of sewer system on this island. And Harmon is very close to the area in which oversees, the water transfer. We all know the one across from Horizon Hotel, the old Horizon Hotel, is actually a well. In that area, we know that the airport, they have wells up there. So I think there need to be some kind of precautions, even though it's temporary. Okay, we're looking at what, 5 years more in this buildup? But we're not looking at a huge increase of H-2 workers because we're already going on the downslope. Now, my concern too on the fire hazard requirement, meets minimum fire flow standards, that's pretty much, gone too. So there's a lot of safety mechanisms that are in current law that needs to stay in place for the sake of the protection of these workers. Else we're going to get sued or, look like we don't care and we're in a third world country or something, and we are not. So there are great concerns I have on this legislation. By taking out those three things is concerning. So other than that, I really don't have any questions. I heard your comments, and I'm looking forward to BBMR continuing to provide us other information on the financial impact that it's going to happen. Though I believe that we need to find somewhere to house these individuals. I think that we're just really late in the game on this. We should have started in 2008 and doing this, but now we're at 2026. What's left? So other than that, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Tide. Speaker Blas, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you very much for being here today. I appreciate that. If anybody from the panel can basically answer the question what is the current standard, if you will, that exists today for workforce housing?
The standard was copied into the new law.
Okay.
The same standards that were drafted by DLM were put into, if you look at the bottom of page 2 of the law, all those items are the standards. That is my understanding. There's been nothing removed or reduced at all.
It's already in place. It's conforming to what is already in place.
Yeah.
It doesn't take away any of the compliance requirements. Everything is showing. It's written in there that it's in conformance. And I just want to comment.
Point of information, if I may, Mr. Chair, it's a point of information. That's not true. You look further into the legislation, you'll see that it takes out the 6 inches required on the fire water area. It takes it out. It's not incorporated in page 2 on the bottom. Just a FYI. Thank you.
Okay, and I just want to comment. Years ago, Carl and Chris would remember this, that I remembered a time when the buildup was really strong, and we had a lot of workforce housing out there. And as time progressed, when the need was no longer there, eventually those camps, or whatever they were at that time, eventually closed. And then later, as people needed them again, they would go and revisit. Some of them still remain closed, right, Chris? Do you remember? Up at Bellow Road, there was some workforce housing at one time, and they were revisited, nothing happened, and they still remain closed. So I guess as the need arises, but here's the thing, if we're talking about workforce housing, what is Guam's need right now? So these people may come and they go and the market drops. How about our local market? What's going to happen to them? Do we need houses for the local market? Yes or no? Damn right we do. We need these construction workers to build local houses. So your children, your grandchildren, they're going to need homes. Who's going to do it? You?
Okay. So thank you very much. So with regard to how, as proposed with the bill, how would this basically help with, and this is a projection, ma'am, again, how would this help with a local market? I think that one of the things that we're looking at and we're getting is that there's a cost, like you had stated earlier, Ms. Dueñas, with bringing these people back and forth and then housing them, as opposed to putting them in the housing that exists today, where it could be, these houses could be for local market as opposed to the housing. How would this bill help to bring down those costs for a local market, so that we can?
Well, number one, if we have housing for the workers, then they could leave the apartment buildings. They can leave the single-family homes that they're currently in place, and it'll free it up for our local market. So if we provide housing for them, then it'll help the current situation. If we don't, they'll remain where they're at, and people will have to bunk up together again and continue the process of See, I think the key is people want something decent. When I go out and I inspect a home, I'm looking, what would the market be for this particular house? If it's an old-fashioned home with old-fashioned finishing, what can we get for that? Is that a $500 rental, an $800 rental? It's about, Chris and I, we evaluate these homes when we go out. Sometimes an owner says, oh, I want a military tenant. Well, I'm sorry, your home does not fit the standards for a military tenant. You want $2,200? It's not gonna work. So we go out and we evaluate. And local markets too, what is their budget? $1,000, $1,500. A 1-bedroom. Some of them are moving into 1-bedrooms, 2-bedrooms, but it's smaller than what they can afford. So again, it will help move these people out into something, whether it be for a 5-year window. We're not asking to keep, because eventually, like the old barracks, they leave. They come, they do whatever they're needed, they leave, the market changes. We all have to shift with the market and the changes that come before us. We can't stay stuck. We have to keep moving.
It's simply a supply and demand situation. If you have a carload of oranges and you're selling oranges, the price of oranges is going to go down because there's a lot of oranges. If you got a lot of houses, the prices of houses will go down. And there'll be plenty of housing for whatever use we want. But we have to build them first, and we have to find a place to build it. And the camp, I don't know if anybody's old enough to remember the black construction camp in Harmon. That was I knew Frank Delgado run it. I don't know if you knew him before he passed away, but I was a good friend of his, and that place was really pristine. They kept it very clean, and it operated very well, and it's right within their operational area. So it's a logical place to build workforce housing.
Okay. Well, with that, Mr. Chair, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker Blas. Senator Tideway, you have an additional question?
Yeah, I just wanted to stand corrected. Yes, the 6 inches for the fire has been restored, as you said, Chris, regarding that. But what has not been restored is the inspection from all the other regulatory agencies to ensure that this is in compliance. And that's one of my biggest concerns. But I just wanted to make sure that as we move forward on anything that's on a buildup, I mean, we know that there's about 2,300 homes that are going to be built on military land. They've already did an RFP that's been put out already, and they're just waiting on this RFP who's going to get the contract to build these 2,300 homes for the military. So looking forward to that and eliminating some of the hardships that our community is having as far as housing. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Tideway.
The housing is always inspected by the agencies. You can't get a permit unless you pass inspection. And if you're trying to get a military tenant for in the private sector, they're really strict.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the workforce housing. That's it, not the regular housing.
If I may interrupt for a second, I think Guam's biggest weakness is following up on inspections. We are woefully lax in getting inspectors out in virtually every agency. And, you know, we have apartment buildings right near my house that are jam-packed full of workers, OFWs for the most part. Some are from Saipan. But, you know, I question, what is the apartment, what does it really look like inside? Because I don't think anybody, maybe they went when they first took it over, but it was probably empty and clean and presentable. But I have serious doubts about it today. Anyway, that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Yingling. If there be no further questions or comments, this concludes today's public hearing on Bill number 240-38 LS, and thank the panel for being here this afternoon to testify on this. The committee will continue to accept written statements on today's hearing within 7 days from today, which may be mailed to my office at the second floor of the Guam Congress Building, 163, Chalang Santo Papa in Naganya. You may also send your statements to us at Vice Speaker Tony Atta at guamlegislature.gov. Thank you for your participation. This public hearing is adjourned, and the time is now 2:39 p.m. We're adjourned, and we'll be going into our next bill in 1 minute.